Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is episode 3 of the Big Block Barracuda Blitz, and it's arguably one of the most important. You see, in this episode, we've got to clean the 493 Big Block, get it prepped for the race, and actually install it with the transmission into the car. It's a tall order, especially if you watched episode 2. Now, I've been pretty busy over the past few days, and I've done a ton of work so far that you haven't seen since airing episode 2. So I'll show you that now, but it's a little bit hard to record this stuff while I'm doing it because usually it's 11, maybe midnight, can't make a bunch of noise, and I'm also trying to be as efficient as possible because I don't have any time, which means I'm jumping from project to project. But the car is looking a whole lot better, and let me show you. Now, since you've seen this last, I have painted the engine bay. I just did a single coat as I do plan to repaint the whole car. I at least wanted some color in here for those hard to reach spaces. I've also mounted a couple things like the fuel regulator. I got the brake system completely in along with the brake lines ran and bent, did all that late night. The steering is looking great, although I do need to adjust the tie rod a little bit because it's going to be binding right there, but no worries. I've also painted the subframe. See, I've got the motor mounts all covered now, protected, primered them first, then painted them. This beautiful radiator is now installed, peeking through the grill. And of course, the big piece here, the transmission's back. Now, if you're subbed, you may have seen that short where I pushed out the fact that I've had that in the corner for 6 years, and it's coming to the rescue for this build because it truly is. But I didn't just leave it how I built it 6 years ago. You know, I just did a stock rebuild. Not going to work for me what I'm trying to do with this Barracuda, especially for the race. So I actually took it to Transmasters in Escondido, California. They went through the entire thing, looked at the clutch packs, recommended a few things, and we went forward with putting in a bolt and sprag, put in a Cope Racing transmission valve body, reverse manual valve body, did a few other things like with the lever arms and the servos as well. I've got a billet servo. Few other things to get this race ready. So hopefully with this 3500 stall converter, this trans will be able to launch hard. I'm running street tires, so I'm probably going to end up just dealing with traction issues. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Now let's jump into the 493. Before I do anything with this, it desperately needs a bath. So I've hit it with some heavy degreaser, wire brush, and then finally with some soap and water to get it ready for paint. Well, it's starting to look orange again, which is a big plus, you know, for the paint that's still left over on the engine. Went through 3 buckets of water, all looking very drink-worthy. Could toss it in there just like this and run it. I know it runs really good, but it just pains me to do that. Plus, we do have to make a few modifications for this car's application. One of the first things we're going to do is start taking off some of these parts. Now the first thing we're going to ditch is the water pump housing. Now here is the new water pump we're going to be running. You know, what was on this car was actually a cast iron pump into an aluminum housing. Not sure what the deal with that was. Maybe it was all they had at the moment. But if I could pull all this stuff out and show you. You know, cooling is one of the biggest issues I had with this. Not because it would naturally overheat or anything. It's just, it's a 12.5 to 1 fully iron 440, 493 stroker. So it makes a lot of heat. So I want to be able to cool it even when I'm parked in between runs. So I've got an electric water pump as well as electric fans. And hopefully that should kind of mitigate a lot of the issues. I do have a couple more things I'm going to do for heat. But this is obviously the biggest. Plus it's going to free up some horsepower. Now the passenger drop water pump housing is en route, should arrive today. There's only 2 companies I know of that are making them. It's 440 Source and Mancini Racing. 440 Source is based in Reno or Carson City, Nevada, which is way closer to where I'm at. So I ordered it from them. Hopefully it gets here today. Even if it doesn't, it's not going to stop us from dropping it in the engine bay. Next you're going to be pulling off this fuel pump. This is a Carter high performance fuel pump. Does a great job. I just don't need it. And that's because I've actually got a Tanks EFI set up with a war roll pump in it. So if I ever run EFI in the future, I'll have this ready to go. Ignore the anchor and the broom. I don't have a lot of space, but that's going to be my solution. All right, the next step is for us to flip this over. Now, some of you had pointed this out in the comments, and I just haven't said anything quite yet. Oh. And there's antifreeze all over the ground in the garage. Never fails. In about 10 minutes, you'll never even know. But the issue is the oil pan. This is a great oil pan. It's fantastic for a drag build. It's an 8-inch deep extra capacity oil pan, which is really something you want for a stroker or anything high performance. But the problem is that it's 8 inches deep. And I installed the engine aft and lower than factory. So it's got to go. Now, when I first bought that Dart with this engine in it, I was pretty happy to see the pan, as I know that's an investment, but it's also good insurance for a build like this. You know, another good sign, looking down at the piston, see those two dimples on the bottom of the piston? That tells me that this entire rotating assembly was balanced once upon a time. And of course the part number in there, that confirms that this is the 12.5-to-1 440 source stroker kit that I was told. There's always that fear that when you buy something off Craigslist or Facebook that you're not really getting what the description says. But this obviously is the same deal. I probably should have popped the pan a long time ago, but I was just having too much fun racing it. And I'm about to continue that ride with the fish. Well, my phone died while recording that. And then immediately after, of course, the kids were starving, so I got cleaned up. We went out to dinner. But let me show you what I did. So there is the 8-inch deep pan with the black YN pickup. I was able to get the YN pan on here. Now, this is a deep sump as well, but instead of an 8-inch, it is a 7-inch. All I needed was that extra inch of ground clearance so that I'm not going to be scraping the pan if I go over any bumps. I'm happy with it. It is a forward sump, whereas the Moroso 8-inch was actually a center sump. It's not a problem. The thicker Moroso pickup tube is what I used. All I did was take a torch to it, accentuate the bends a little bit, and then thread it down one more thread. And I was able to get it to work with the 7-inch, no problem. So this is good to go. Now we got to flip it back over. And honestly, I just wanted to flip it over so that I could really show you the power of old-fashioned elbow grease and paint. In all honesty, that actually really sucked. It took me about 2.5 days. And a lot of that is thanks to this guy here. Thread stripped out, so I had to drill it, tap it, throw a helicoiler in there. And then, of course, letting the paint dry. Did primer, an orange, and then this bronze/copper finish. Painted the 426 and the Ram Charger the same exact color. I love that copper tone. But now that the engine is done, it's time to put it inside the car. All right, so I got it in. I do need to make a few adjustments, but so far I'm liking it. I love all this extra space up here, even though it's only, 1.5 inches back. I still like it. I've got perfect amount of clearance here underneath the oil filter. You can't quite see it, but to the power steering lines with the rack and pinion, that's about, if I can feel my finger, it's a fingertip. So 1/4 inch, it's a pinky tip. 1/4 inch gap there, which is good. Motor mounts are loose right now, so I will, of course, firm them up after I make the trans. But it's looking pretty decent so far. I'm happy with it. That clearance is still there. 1/4 inch. Well, one of the things I do need to do, however, is I've got to lower the back end of the engine a little bit. If you look over here, it's a little dark. But right now, it's about a 3-inch drop from the end of the firewall where the trans tunnel starts to the top of the mating surface for the trans. 3-inch height right now, or 3-inch depth, is too much. I need that to be 1.5 inches, so I've got to drop that rear end a good 5 degrees, and then I can bring the trans up. When I do that, my tie rod is going to hit. But luckily, I used the tie rod and can adjust that down. So that's what I need. That's what I've got to do to get the trans in. I got to take the tie rod down a little bit, maybe a 1/4 inch or so. And then after I do that, I'll make sure that the rest of the steering shaft's not hitting, which I don't think it will. I think it's just going to make clearance everywhere. And then I can lower the back end of the engine just a little bit. Can't tell. It's pretty late, pretty tired. My hand has taken a few jabs thanks to the headers. But it's progress. All right, so it is Wednesday morning. I am actually posting this video in just a few hours. The engine is in. The transmission is still not. After a couple extra hours of moving stuff around and trying to get the trans in last night, that gap down there is proving to be an issue. I cannot drop it too much because then this header actually hits the U-joint for the steering. Plus, I've checked my angles. Right here is where it needs to stay. So basically, my issue is going to be just the top lip of the trans tunnel. At this point, I'm thinking BFH might be in order. Regardless, I got to get this trans in there within the next day. I'll have a lot more explaining to do on the next video. You're going to have to follow along and see the next video to figure out how I get that trans in. If you're not, please hit the subscribe button so that you get the notification when I post that video next Wednesday. I'm running out of time, but I'm feeling good about progress. Thank you all for watching. See you next week.